Before we start, let's just clarify exactly what our side is. Violent video games can contribute to violent behavior. There is no evidence or studies that can prove that video games cannot contribute to any violent acts. Dave Grossman, a retired lieutenant colonel in the United States Army and former West Point psychology professor, stated, "Through interactive point-and-shoot video games, modern nations are indiscriminately introducing to their kids the same weapons technology that major armies and law enforcement agencies around the world used to turn off the midbrain safety catch that prevents most people from killing." Kids growing up playing video games like GTA and Call of Duty, and they spend hours killing digital people. Video game violence desensitizes players to actual violence, and kids are being rewarded for simulating violence.
Alright. 95% of children aged 12 to 17 play video games, and 85% of the games that children are playing contain a violent aspect in them. We think that the multi-billion-dollar industry is not responsible for the outlashes and extreme attacks minors are causing, or others are causing. Hundreds of psychological studies have been conducted on children with violent attacks, and most of them were caused with abusive parents, poverty, neglect, neighborhood crime, substance abuse, and mental health issues. Everywhere we look in the world, there is some sort of violence happening around us. People are influenced by reality, not virtual reality. Video games give players an opportunity to escape the real world and live somewhere else as someone else. Violent video games provide opportunities for children to explore virtuality and the consequences of violent actions to develop their moral compass. Even Disney games have an aspect of violence in them, so why are we still beating this dead horse of a topic?
So Game Rant's top 10 video games of 2016 so far lists 10 video games, which include the likes of Doom, Uncharted 4, Ratchet & Clank, and Dark Souls. And 7 out of those 10 games all revolve around killing and violence as their main points. So 70% of the games, of the best games that Game Rant has stated that have come out this year, 70% in 10 months has revolved around killing and violence. Now, I'm going to tell you a story about a guy named Tyrone Spellman. He's one of the worst people I could ever tell you about. He's a man in love with his Xbox. He went berserk when his 17-month-old daughter accidentally pulled the cords out of the wall to his Xbox. And instead of doing what anyone would, plugging him back in and carrying on, making sure she's okay, Spellman cracked her in the skull repeatedly and killed her. And he killed his 17-month-old daughter because she unplugged his Xbox. Now, if this isn't like, that to me was just gross. If you want another one, in 2014, a Chicago teen was arrested for killing his own brother for getting a higher score on the iOS and Android game Flappy Bird. So a game where you tap the screen to get a bird in between pipes made this normal this normal kid kill his own brother.
So another person I just want to bring up is a man named Evan Ramsey. He snuck a shotgun into his high school and shot a student and the principal and wounded 2 others. He claims that a video game, Doom, distorted his version of reality. He said, "I did not understand that if I pull out a gun and shoot you, you're not getting back up. You shoot a guy in Doom and he gets back up. You have to go shoot the things in Doom 8 or 9 times before it dies." And a quote by Mark Applebaum, who's a PhD on the task force. He said, "No single risk factor consistently leads a person to act aggressively or violent. The report states, rather, it is the accumulation of risk factors that tend to lead to an aggressive or violent behavior. The research reviewed here demonstrates that violent video games use is one such risk factor."
So the first point I want to bring up is a 2014 peer-reviewed study published by the Psychology of Popular Media Culture magazine. It showed that more people have been exposed to violent video games. Serious and deadly assaults have not actually increased. Another peer review done in the Journal of Communication showed that as video games playing increased, there was actually less violence caused by youth. The second point I want to bring up was another study that was showing the countries with the highest video game markets internationally. The United States landed number 10, but the United States lands number 1 on the most violent list. The United States last year had 37,983 youth people were arrested for murder, aggravated assault, and forceful rape. Over 8,200 of those crimes were murder. Japan ranked number 1 for video game markets, and they are 6 times less violent than the US. Murders in Japan for youth, well, there was only 127 last year. Video games aren't the problem.
So social scientists have developed many theories about a child's relationship between mistreatment and crime. Three of these main theories are the social learning theory, the social control theory, and the social psychology strain theory. So the SLT, or social learning theory, is that a child can develop behavioral patterns based on violence or any criminal activity that they see, and they learn from others. This means if a child is abused or someone around them is abusing another person, that they could produce a behavior similar to what they are exposed to. The SCT, or the social control theory, states that the individuals have a natural tendency towards violence, and mistreatment of the individual could make them more likely to offend. So a child would be more likely to offend based on behaviors of the close people in their lives. My second point is, if a child comes from a violent environment, it could make the child more likely to develop a violent behavior. According to the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention, 60% of children in America are exposed to violence at home, in school, or in their communities each year. The OJJDP, which is the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention, states children who are exposed to violence undergo lasting physical, mental, and emotional harm. These kids who are exposed to violence more in their everyday lives are more likely to engage in violence themselves and think it's okay. Children learn from what they see and not what they are exposed to. So if a child is regularly surrounded by violence at home, by their parents or by other people close to them, they could behave in similar ways.
All right. Your 1 minute starting.
Dominic, you said that the kids are influenced by what they see. So you're telling me if a 14, 13, 12-year-old kid is playing Call of Duty and he's running around Nuketown, no scope, and some noobs shooting them, that's not influencing them, that's not giving them like the behaviors and everything. Not only are these kids shooting people in these digital worlds without any consequence, they're killing these people and getting rewarded from it. What's stopping a 10-year-old kid from, and from the age 10, everyone here has been 10, obviously, and you know how influenced you are by the people you look up to and everything. If you look up to you're the main character on Call of Duty as his hero, how is that not going to affect you personally? He's going around shooting, and you think he's saving people, but what's going to stop you from starting to take on some of those things and learning how to deal with that kind of behavior and attitude towards that, like killing people gets me rewards and there's no consequences because, you know, it's just digital people.
You brought up the Army General being a source for a review on violent video games, but the US Army has a multi-million-dollar industry and just their advertisements and convincing people that war is something to be interested in, something that's fun, promoting violence itself. So I don't really see them as somebody to be talking about promoting against violence when they spend millions and billions of dollars on a violent situation. Also, the Spelman person who beat his child, that's more likely to be a mental illness than rather seeing it on a screen of backhanding someone. I think that's more of a passed down trait. Evan Ramsey, the school shooter, who said that video games distorted his vision and made him shoot up a school, is also probably most likely a mental disorder, and 61% of people lie about their alibis inside of court, so most likely he was just trying to cover up what he did rather than and place the blame on someone else so he doesn't get punished and hurt.
Okay.
Well, unless I'm missing something, I don't think the military advertises like, come join us, it's fun to shoot people. I think they're mostly saying like, join us and support and defend your country. So that was just that I wanted to say. You said that we're influenced by reality, not virtual reality. I think especially in today's world, I think we're hugely influenced by virtual reality from like YouTube and TV shows, social media, and just all those kind of things.
Adding on to that, we're seeing this whole clown thing, and you guys say that that no one's inspired by virtual reality. There's now a guy dressing up as Batman trying to scare away these scary clowns. So to say that people aren't influenced by what they see or watch on a TV, I find
Batman's a comic book.
but it's also a movie and it was a TV series.
But
and a
we are
animated
talking about
series.
video games here, not about.
Also a few video games.
This is their ad.
Jesus Christ.
So, most job training teaches you how to make something. Mine teaches me what I'm made of. That doesn't encourage people to find something what they're supposed to be doing. It's going out to war and shooting people. It's more convincing than a video game. Also, Disney games. Every video game has an aspect of violence. Even Final Fantasy, is it that game? They all contain swords and taking out opponents. Even little children's shows and stuff are all aspects of violence. It's all around us, so I don't think video games really influence people. And if parents are so worried about their children becoming more violent, maybe they should monitor more what their children are being produced, not buying them those video games. Video games that are violent are rated 18A. A child can't go into the store, a 10-year-old can't go into the store and buy those games. So why are parents buying those video games for the children if they're not even legal age to be playing them? They shouldn't be given to the children. Even though it's out there advertising, they should know. Take the responsibility.
So you said that even Disney games have like an aspect of violence, and well, yes.
Time. Great supporting point for the board.
So Josh and I, we sat down and we decided to look up the number of school shootings from 2006 to is when we kind of figured that video games started reaching a more mature audience and started becoming more mainstream. And then we decided to counter that by looking at 1995 to 2005, the same time span for each. From 1995 to 2005, there was recorded 53 school shootings in the United States. From 2006 to 2016, there have been 158 school shootings, which is more than 3 times the amount in just 10 years, which is when video games started becoming more of a mainstream thing. And
All right.
We believe that it is the parent's responsibility to raise the child in a proper environment so it doesn't have a violent life. Recently, a group of 238 scholars asked the American Psychology Association to retire the outdated and problematic statements on violent video games because they are inaccurate. Enough studies have been conducted showing that video games are not a result of violent behavior, and that's where we will